Their lips were just inches apart when everything fell apart. Now after weeks of silence, she's back, but is it too late? The coffee machine at his regular workspace had broken down that Tuesday morning. Raj stood outside the closed office building, staring at the handwritten sign taped to the glass door. Renovations until further notice, great, just great. He had 3 client calls scheduled and a presentation to finish before lunch. He pulled out his phone and searched for nearby cafes. There was one just 2 blocks away called The Daily Grind. The reviews weren't bad, 4.5 stars. He grabbed his laptop bag and started walking, hoping they'd have a decent corner where he could work in peace. The moment he pushed open the cafe door, he knew this wasn't going to be peaceful. The place was packed. Every single table seemed occupied. People were typing on laptops, having animated conversations, or just sitting with their phones. The smell of fresh coffee and baked goods filled the air, which was nice. But he needed a seat more than he needed good smells. Raj ordered his usual black coffee and a blueberry muffin, then turned to scan the room one more time. Maybe someone was about to leave. His eyes landed on a large corner table near the window. Perfect spot. Natural light, away from the main traffic flow. There was just one problem. A girl was walking toward it at the exact same moment, carrying her own cup of coffee and a shoulder bag that looked heavy with books or a laptop. They both reached for the chair at the same time. His hand touched the back of it just as hers did. They both pulled back quickly. "Oh, sorry," he said. "No, I'm sorry," she replied, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. She had kind eyes and seemed just as flustered as he felt. They stood there for an awkward second, both looking at the table, then at each other. The table had 4 chairs. It was clearly meant for more than one person. But sharing a table with a stranger? That felt weird. "Look," she said, breaking the silence. "This is silly. It's a big table. We can both work here if you want." Raj hesitated. He usually preferred working alone. No distractions. But what choice did he have? "Yeah, okay. That works, thanks." They settled into chairs across from each other. Raj opened his laptop and tried to focus on his presentation, but he was hyper-aware of her presence. She was pulling out a drawing tablet and a laptop of her own. A designer, maybe? He snuck a glance at her screen when she wasn't looking. Yep, definitely design software. 20 minutes passed in silence. Then his phone rang. The client call. He answered it, keeping his voice low, but he could feel her eyes on him. When he ended the call, she was smiling slightly. "Software?" she asked. "Yeah, how'd you know?" "You said deployment like 5 times. Also in back-end issues, dead giveaway." He laughed. "Guilty, and you're a designer?" "Graphic designer, freelance mostly, but I do some contract work for a marketing agency." She extended her hand across the table. "I'm Priya." "Raj," he shook her hand. Her grip was firm and confident. "So is this your first time here?" she asked, taking a sip of her coffee. "Yeah, my usual place is closed for renovations. You?" "I come here every Tuesday and Thursday. It's become my unofficial office. The owner knows my order by heart at this point." They fell back into their work, but it wasn't the same uncomfortable silence as before. It felt easier somehow. Every now and then, one of them would make a small comment. Priya pointed out a regular customer who always ordered 6 shots of espresso. Raj showed her a meme he'd seen about designers and clients. Small things. Nothing deep. But it felt natural. An hour later, Priya started packing up her things. Raj felt a weird sense of disappointment. The morning had gone by faster than he'd expected. "Same time Thursday?" she asked casually, slinging her bag over her shoulder. He looked up, surprised. "Yeah? I mean, if your place is still closed. The table's big enough for 2. She said it like it was no big deal, but there was something in her expression. A hopefulness, maybe? "Yeah," he said, trying not to sound too eager. "Thursday sounds good." She smiled, gave a small wave, and headed for the door. Raj watched her go, then looked back at his laptop screen. He'd barely made any progress on his presentation, but somehow he didn't mind. He was already looking forward to Thursday. When Thursday came, he found himself checking his reflection in his phone screen before entering the cafe. Was he really doing this? Getting ready for a coffee shop work session like it was something special? He shook his head at himself and went inside. Priya was already there at the same corner table. She'd saved the seat across from her. When she saw him, her face lit up with a genuine smile and something in his chest felt lighter. "You came," she said. "Of course. Where else am I going to find free tech support? She'd helped him troubleshoot a bug in his code last time, even though she claimed she didn't know much about programming. And where else am I going to find someone who actually gets my jokes about kerning? They settled into their spots like they'd been doing this for years instead of just once before. The conversation flowed easier this time. He learned that she'd moved to the city 3 years ago for a job that didn't work out, but she'd stayed anyway. She learned that he'd transferred here 6 months ago and still hadn't made many friends outside of work. It's hard, right? She said, making friends as an adult. Everyone already has their groups and exactly. At work, people are friendly, but outside of office hours, nothing. Well, she said, meeting his eyes, you've got a coffee buddy now. That counts for something. It did count for something. It counted for more than he wanted to admit to himself. Over the next few weeks, Tuesdays and Thursdays became the highlights of his week. They'd work in comfortable silence, occasionally sharing their screens to show each other projects. Priya was talented, really talented. Her designs had this quality that made you stop and actually look at them. One Thursday, about a month into their routine, it rained. Not just a drizzle, but a proper downpour. When it was time for Priya to leave, they both looked out the window at the sheets of rain coming down. I should have checked the weather, she muttered. Raj reached into his bag and pulled out a compact umbrella. Here, what about you? He pulled out a second one. I learned my lesson last week. Always carry a backup, she laughed. You're very prepared. Eagle Scout training never leaves you. They walked out together, umbrellas up, navigating the crowded sidewalk. When they reached her building, they stood under the entrance awning. The rain was so loud it almost drowned out the city noise. Thanks for walking with me, she said. No problem. It's on my way. It wasn't really. He'd gone 4 blocks out of his way, but he didn't mention that. They stood there, neither of them moving. The rain created a curtain around them, separating them from the rest of the world. Priya looked up at him, and for a moment he thought about saying something. Something about how these Tuesdays and Thursdays had become important to him, about how he found himself thinking about her comments and her laugh during the days in between. But he didn't. Instead, he just said, See you Tuesday? She nodded slowly. Tuesday. As he walked home in the rain, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd missed an opportunity. But for what exactly? They were just coffee shop friends. Weren't they? Tuesday came, and with it a shift in how they were around each other. Nothing dramatic. Just small things. The way Priya's eyes would linger on him a second longer when he was explaining something. The way Raj found excuses to lean closer when looking at her designs. The way their knees would accidentally bump under the table and neither would move away. 6 weeks passed like this. 6 weeks of inside jokes and shared playlists and text messages that started with work questions, but ended with conversations about everything else. His coworkers noticed he was happier. Her friends asked who this guy was that she kept mentioning. It's not like that, Priya told her best friend over the phone one evening. We're just friends. Friends don't talk about someone the way you talk about him. We just work at the same table twice a week. It's not a big deal, but it was a big deal. She knew it was. Raj knew it too. They just weren't saying it out loud. One Thursday, Priya's laptop made a horrible beeping sound and the screen went black. She tried everything. Nothing worked. She looked genuinely distressed. My client presentation is on there. I have to send it by tonight. Raj immediately shifted into problem-solving mode. He came around to her side of the table, pulled up a chair next to her and started troubleshooting. His fingers flew across the keyboard, running diagnostics, checking connections. Priya watched him work, impressed by how focused he became. You're really good at this, she said softly. He glanced at her, suddenly aware of how close they were sitting. It's just basic troubleshooting. No, I mean it. You're patient. You don't make me feel stupid for not knowing this stuff. Their eyes met, held. The cafe noise seemed to fade into the background. Then the laptop chimed back to life and the moment broke. There you go, he said, moving back to his seat. Your files are all safe. Thank you. She meant it for more than just the laptop fix. The next week, something changed in Priya's demeanor. She seemed distracted, quieter. Raj noticed but didn't want to pry. On Thursday, she barely touched her coffee. Just stared at her screen without really working. You okay? He finally asked. She looked up surprised, like she'd forgotten he was there. Yeah, just, my ex texted me yesterday. Raj felt something uncomfortable twist in his stomach. Oh, We broke up 8 months ago. It wasn't good toward the end. And now he wants to talk about things. I don't know why he can't just leave it alone. What did you say? I haven't replied yet. Part of me wants to tell him off. Part of me just wants to ignore it. She paused. Part of me wonders if I'm avoiding it because I'm scared. Scared of what? Of getting hurt again. Of trusting someone and having them change. Of starting over and ending up in the same place. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Raj wanted to reach across the table and take her hand. Wanted to tell her that not everyone would hurt her. That some people stay, but he didn't. He just said, "You don't owe him anything." Not a reply, not a conversation, nothing. You get to choose what's right for you. She smiled at him then, a real smile that reached her eyes. How'd you get so wise? Therapy and a really good sister who doesn't let me get away with anything. They laughed and the heavy mood lifted. But something had shifted between them. They both felt it. The following Tuesday, Priya brought him a book she'd mentioned weeks ago. I thought you might like it, she said, handing it to him. He looked at the cover, then at her. You remembered. Of course I remembered. That's when he realized this was more than just a coffee shop friendship. You don't remember casual comments from casual friends. You don't buy them books. You don't walk out of your way in the rain just to spend a few more minutes together. The weekend after that, Priya invited him to an art gallery opening. Her friend was showcasing his work, and she had a +1 invitation. It's probably going to be boring, she said, but there's free wine and cheese. Sold, Raj replied, trying to keep his voice casual even though his heart was racing. The gallery was in a converted warehouse, all white walls and exposed brick. The art was modern and abstract, the kind that made you tilt your head and pretend you understood it. But Raj didn't care about the art. He cared about the way Priya moved through the space. Confident and comfortable, stopping to talk to people she knew, always making sure he was included in the conversation. So how long have you two been together? Someone asked them. Oh, we're not, Priya started. Just friends, Raj finished. The person gave them a knowing look. Sure, friends. After they walked away, Priya turned to him. Does it bother you? That people assume? No, he said honestly. Does it bother you? No. They held each other's gaze for a long moment before another friend pulled Priya away to meet someone. Raj watched her go, wondering what they were doing. This dance they'd been doing for weeks now. Moving closer then pulling back. Testing boundaries without ever crossing them. After the gallery, they found a diner that was still open. It was nearly midnight, but neither of them wanted the night to end. They ordered fries and milkshakes and talked about everything. Childhood dreams, career failures, family drama, the kind of conversations you have when you trust someone enough to be vulnerable. I always thought I'd be further along by now, Priya admitted, dragging a fry through ketchup. Like at 27, I thought I'd have it all figured out. Does anyone have it figured out? You seem like you do, Raj laughed. I'm barely holding it together most days. I just hide it well. You hide it very well. They left the diner and walked through the quiet city streets. It was that strange hour when the night owls had gone home. But the early risers hadn't emerged yet. Just them and the street lights and the distant sound of a car alarm. This is nice, Priya said. I forget how peaceful the city can be. Different from Tuesday mornings at the coffee shop. Very different. They found themselves on a bridge overlooking the river. The water was dark and calm, reflecting the lights from the buildings on either side. They leaned against the railing, shoulders touching. Can I ask you something? Priya said. Anything. Why did you really move here? You mentioned a transfer, but that's not the whole story, is it? Raj was quiet for a moment. I was in a relationship back home. Engaged, actually. She called it off 3 months before the wedding. Said she couldn't see a future with me. So when the transfer opportunity came up, I took it. Needed a fresh start. I'm sorry. Don't be. She was right. We wanted different things. I just wish she'd figured that out before we sent out the invitations. That's why you keep to yourself. Maybe. Or maybe I just hadn't met the right person to not keep to myself around. He turned to look at her. Priya's breath caught. The city lights reflected in her eyes. Raj, I know we're supposed to be just friends. I know this is complicated, but I need you to know that these past couple of months have been the best I've had since I moved here, maybe even before that. And it's because of you. She turned to face him fully. They were close now, so close. I feel the same way. But I'm scared. Of what? Of this being real and then it not working out. Of losing what we have now. Of getting hurt again. I'm scared too. You are. Terrified. But I'm more scared of not trying. They stood there on the bridge, the space between them charged with possibility. Priya tilted her face up. Her lips were just inches away. Raj could see the slight tremor in her breath, could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. He started to lean in, then his phone rang. Loud and jarring in the quiet night. They both jumped. Raj pulled out his phone ready to silence it, but saw his boss's name flashing on the screen. I'm so sorry, he said. It's work. The server's been having issues all week. It's okay. Take it. He answered the call, stepping a few feet away. It was an emergency. Of course it was. The client's website was down. He needed to log in remotely and fix it. Now. When he hung up, Priya was hugging herself against the night chill, looking out at the water. I have to go, he said. I'm really sorry. No, it's fine. It's work. I get it. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. We should probably both get home anyway. It's late. They walked back in silence, the earlier magic of the evening dissipated. At her building, they said a quick goodbye. No lingering, no moment. Just a wave and a see you Tuesday. But Tuesday came and Priya wasn't at the coffee shop. Raj waited at their usual table, checking his phone every few minutes. Maybe she was running late. Maybe she'd gotten busy with work. But deep down he knew. He'd felt her pull away on the bridge after that phone call. Thursday. Still no Priya. He sat alone at the corner table, his coffee growing cold, his laptop unopened. He felt foolish. Had he misread everything? Maybe she really did just want to be friends and he'd ruined it by almost kissing her. The next week was the same. Empty chair. Unanswered questions. The barista who'd gotten used to seeing them together asked where his friend was. Raj had no answer. He realized then that he didn't even have her number. Not really. They'd texted, but always about meeting up, never anything personal. He didn't know her last name, didn't know where she worked, didn't know how to reach her beyond showing up at the coffee shop and hoping. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Raj forced himself to work, to focus, to move on. But every Tuesday and Thursday he'd find himself at that corner table, waiting for someone who wasn't coming. One evening, he went back to the bridge where they'd almost kissed, stood in the same spot, looked out at the, 3 weeks and 2 days since he'd last seen Priya. Not that Raj was counting, except he totally was. Every Tuesday and Thursday felt like a small defeat when he walked into the daily grind and saw their corner table occupied by strangers. He'd started going to the coffee shop on other days too, hoping he might run into her. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, even Saturday once. But she was never there. The barista had started giving him pitying looks, which somehow made it worse. His sister called him on a random Thursday evening. You sound depressed, she said, not bothering with hello. I'm fine. You're not fine. What happened? He told her about Priya, about the coffee shop meetings and the gallery night and the bridge, about how she disappeared without explanation and how he had no way to contact her. So let me get this straight, his sister said. You spent weeks hanging out with this woman, clearly liked her, had this big romantic almost moment, and you never thought to get her actual contact information? We had each other's numbers. For logistics. That's not the same as having someone's real contact info. Did you follow her on social media? No. Did you get her last name? No, his sister sighed. Raj, I love you, but you're an idiot. Thanks. Really helpful. I'm serious. You can't just float through life assuming people will always be where you left them. You have to actually make an effort to stay connected. She's the one who disappeared. Maybe she had a reason. Maybe something happened. Maybe she's waiting for you to reach out. But you can't reach out because you never bothered to build an actual bridge between your lives. You just hung out in the same coffee shop twice a week. After he hung up, Raj sat with that truth. His sister was right. He'd been so careful, so cautious about not pushing too hard or moving too fast, that he'd failed to actually build something real, something that could survive beyond the walls of that cafe. Another week passed. Raj was starting to accept that he might never see Priya again. It felt dramatic to be this affected by someone he'd only known for a couple of months, but the heart doesn't really care about timelines. Then, on a random Wednesday, he ran into someone from the gallery. Literally ran into them. He was leaving a client meeting, distracted, and nearly knocked over a woman coming out of a building. Sorry, I wasn't. He stopped. You're Priya's friend. From the gallery. She squinted at him. Coffee shop guy? Raj, yeah. Right, how are you? How's Priya? I was hoping you could tell me. I haven't seen her in almost a month. The woman's expression changed. You don't know? His stomach dropped. No what? Her dad had a heart attack. She flew home the day after the gallery thing. Family emergency. Her mom called her that night. The world tilted slightly. Is he okay? He's stable now, but it was touch and go for a while. Priya's been dealing with all of it. Hospital visits, medical decisions, taking care of her mom. It's been a lot. Relief and guilt washed over him in equal measures. Relief that she hadn't been avoiding him. Guilt that he'd assumed the worst instead of considering that something serious might have happened. Do you have her number? He asked. Her actual number, not just the one she uses for meeting up. The woman pulled out her phone and shared Priya's contact. Tell her Anita says hi, and that she needs to take care of herself too. That night, Raj stared at his phone for 20 minutes before finally typing a message. He wrote and deleted at least 10 versions. Too casual, too intense, too apologetic, too distant. Finally, he settled on something simple. Hey, it's Raj. Just heard about your dad. I hope he's doing better. I hope you're doing okay too. I'm here if you need anything. He hit send before he could second guess it. 3 hours passed. No response. He forced himself not to check his phone every 5 minutes. Went to the gym, made dinner, watched a movie without really watching it. Then just before midnight his phone buzzed. Thanks. He's recovering. It's been a really hard month. I'm sorry I disappeared on you. Don't apologize. Family comes first. How are you holding up? The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared several times before her next message came through. Honestly, I'm exhausted. And my ex showed up at the hospital, said he heard about my dad and wanted to support me. It's been confusing. Raj read that last sentence 3 times. The ex, the one who'd texted her before the gallery, the one who'd hurt her. Of course he'd shown up. Of course he'd found a way back in during her most vulnerable moment. That sounds complicated, he replied, trying to keep his tone neutral. It is. He's been really present through all this. Helping with hospital stuff, bringing food, staying with my mom when I needed to crash, and I keep thinking maybe I misjudged him. Maybe people change. Raj felt something crack in his chest. But what could he say? Don't give him another chance? That would make him sound jealous and possessive. She had every right to make her own choices. You have to do what feels right for you, he typed. Just be careful. Trust your gut. I miss our coffee shop days, she wrote back. Simple seemed easier. It did. I should probably go. Long day tomorrow. But thanks for checking in. It means a lot. Anytime. The conversation ended there. Raj sat in his dark apartment, phone in hand, feeling the distance between them like a physical thing. She was dealing with a sick parent and a complicated ex, and he was just the guy from the coffee shop, the almost something that never quite became anything. Over the next 2 weeks, they texted sporadically. Surface-level stuff. How's your dad? How's work? Did you see that new movie? The kind of messages you send when you're trying to maintain a connection, but don't know how to bridge the gap that's formed. She mentioned her ex a few more times. Always casually. Tom helped me organize Dad's medications. Tom drove me to the hospital when I was too tired. Tom. The guy had a name now. That somehow made it worse. Raj tried to be supportive, tried to be the friend she needed, but it was killing him. Watching her drift towards someone who'd already hurt her once, wondering if that moment on the bridge had meant anything at all, or if it had just been a fleeting possibility that circumstances had erased. His sister told him to tell Priya how he felt. His coworker said to move on. His own brain ping-ponged between both options, never settling on either. 3 weeks after that first text exchange, Priya sent him a message at 2 a.m. You up? He had been lying in bed, scrolling mindlessly through his phone. Yeah, everything okay? Can't sleep. Thinking too much? About? Everything. Dad's recovery. Work I'm behind on, Tom, you. His heart jumped at that last word. Me? That night at the bridge. Before your phone rang. I think about it sometimes. About what might have happened if we hadn't been interrupted. Raj sat up in bed. This was it. The moment to say something real. Something true. But what if she was just reminiscing? What if she was with Tom now and this was just nostalgia talking? I think about it too, he typed carefully. More than sometimes. Why didn't you reach out sooner? After I left? I didn't have a way to. Just the number you used for coffee shop logistics. And I figured if you wanted to talk, you would. I was drowning here. Everything with my dad and then Tom showing up and I didn't know how to reach out. Didn't know if I should, because of Tom. A long pause. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared 3 times. Because I'm scared. That night when you almost kissed me. I wanted you to, so badly. But then your phone rang and it felt like the universe was telling me to slow down. To not rush into something new when I'm clearly not over the old thing. Are you? Over it? I thought I was. I really did. But then Tom shows up, being kind and supportive, and part of me wonders if I gave up on us too easily. If I ran away instead of trying to work through our problems, Raj closed his eyes. This was the moment to fight for what he wanted. To tell her that she deserved better than someone she'd had to convince to treat her right. That what they had, even in its brief existence, had been real and worth exploring. But he also knew she needed to figure this out on her own. He couldn't be the guy who pressured her when she was vulnerable and confused. You need to listen to your gut, he finally wrote. Not to what's easy or comfortable or familiar. What do you actually want? I don't know. I'm so tired of not knowing, that's okay. You don't have to have all the answers right now. I should probably go. Sorry for the late night ramble. Never apologize for reaching out. I mean that. After she signed off, Raj lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He'd done the right thing. The mature thing, but it felt awful. Like he'd just handed Priya permission to choose someone else. The next morning, he made a decision. He was going to stop waiting. Stop hoping. Stop checking his phone every 10 minutes for messages that might not come. Priya was dealing with her life and he needed to deal with his. If they were meant to reconnect, they would. But he couldn't put his life on hold for a possibility. He threw himself into work, took on extra projects, started going to the gym regularly, hung out with coworkers he'd previously kept at arm's length. Slowly, the sharp ache of missing Priya faded into a dull background noise. He still went to the daily grind, but not on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Monday mornings instead. Different day, different energy. Moving forward, 5 weeks after their 2 a.m. conversation, Raj was at the coffee shop on a Monday, actually focused on his work for the first time in months. When someone slid into the chair across from him, he looked up, expecting a stranger asking if the seat was taken. It was Priya. She looked different, thinner, tired, but her eyes were clear in a way they hadn't been at the gallery. Determined. Hey, she said softly. Raj's carefully constructed walls of moving on crumbled instantly. Hey, can we talk? He closed his laptop. Yeah, of course. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Raj noticed the dark circles under Priya's eyes, the way her hands fidgeted with the coffee cup she'd brought to the table. She was nervous. That made 2 of them. How's your dad? He asked, giving her an easy opening. Better, much better. He's home now doing physical therapy. Mom's basically running a military operation to make sure he follows doctor's orders. A small smile crossed her face. It's exhausting, but good. He's going to be okay. I'm glad. Really glad. Thank you for texting. And for the follow-ups. I know I wasn't great at responding. You had a lot going on. Priya nodded, then took a deep breath. I need to explain. About everything. About why I disappeared and why I'm here now. You don't owe me. I do. Please, let me say this. Raj gestured for her to continue. That night at the bridge, she began, when we almost kissed. That phone call wasn't why I pulled back. I mean, yes, it interrupted the moment, but I was already scared. Terrified, actually. Because I felt so much, so fast, and that scared me more than anything. She paused, collecting her thoughts. When I was with Tom, my ex, it took us months to get to a place where I felt comfortable. And even then, I was always holding something back. Always waiting for the other shoe to drop. With you, I felt comfortable after 2 weeks. After one conversation, really. And that intensity freaked me out. Raj wanted to say something, but he sensed she needed to get this all out. Then Mom called about Dad's heart attack. I was getting ready for bed after we said goodbye. And suddenly I'm booking a last-minute flight home, terrified that I'm going to lose my father. And in that moment, everything else just vanished. The coffee shop, my work, my apartment, you. Not because you weren't important, but because I went into survival mode. That makes sense. Tom showing up at the hospital, that was unexpected. He heard through mutual friends and drove 4 hours to be there. And for a week, maybe 2, it felt like old times. Like maybe we'd both grown up and could try again. He was saying all the right things. Being supportive in ways he never was when we were together. Priya's voice got quieter. But then one night I was sitting in the hospital cafeteria at like 2 in the morning, dead tired, and Tom was talking about us getting back together. About how this situation had shown him what really mattered. And all I could think about was you. Raj's heart hammered in his chest. I thought about how you never made me feel like I had to be anything other than myself. How you listened without trying to fix everything. How you made me laugh even when I was stressed about deadlines. How that night on the bridge you told me you were scared too, and somehow that made me feel less alone. She finally looked directly at him. Tom was offering me familiarity, comfort, a known path. But I didn't want that. I wanted the person who challenged me to be brave enough to want something new. Something better. I wanted you. The coffee shop noise faded. There was just Priya's voice and the words hanging between them. So I told Tom that I appreciated everything he'd done. But I wasn't interested in going backward. And then I spent 3 weeks finishing up stuff at home, getting my dad stable and working up the courage to come back here and find you. Why did it take courage? Raj asked softly. Because I disappeared on you. Because I didn't handle any of this well. Because for all I knew you'd moved on and met someone else and wouldn't want to hear from me. Because putting yourself out there when you've already been hurt is terrifying. Raj reached across the table, and this time he did take her hand. I haven't moved on. I tried, I really did. But I think you ruined me for anyone else. Priya laughed, a real laugh with tears in her eyes. That's either really romantic or really codependent. Can it be both? They sat there, hands linked across the table while the world continued around them. A barista called out an order. Someone's laptop dinged with a notification. The espresso machine hissed and gurgled. Normal sounds of a normal day, but